Math 1, practice 3.1.2, solving linear equations. So now all we're doing is solving equations. Okay, so we're just trying to get the variable by itself. We're using properties of equality to make equivalent equations to the point where we just have one variable equal to one number. Okay, so on number 1 we've got 14 minus 3y equals 4y. So we should notice right off the bat those y's need to get combined. Well, how do we make that negative 3y become a 0? We add 3y. And because we're doing it to one side and we want to maintain equality, we have to do it to the other side. So negative 3 plus 3y is 0. So 14 plus 0 equals 4y plus 3y. Now these both have y's, so I can combine them. So 3 plus 4 would give us 7y. And adding 0 we should know does nothing. So I really just have 14 equals 7y, which we divide by 7. We get 14 over 7 equals 1 times y. Now we know that timesing by 1 does nothing, so we're left with just y. We also know that 14 divided by 7 is actually 2, so we write it as 2, and there's my answer. Okay, number 2, same idea. Only this time we've got variables on both sides and numbers on both sides. So we need to get the variables to one side, the numbers to the other. Now you can do this in various different ways, but what I would do is I'd add 7x first to both sides. Okay, because there's 10x. 7x plus 10x, I can simplify that to be 17x minus 22 equals 29. Now negative 7x plus 7x is 0, and adding 0 does nothing, so we got that away. Now we add 22 to both sides, because that'll make that 0, so we're left with 17x equals, and then that would be 151. Okay, then the last step, divide by 17, so that becomes 1x. Then 51 divided by 17 is 3. And there's our second answer. Okay, number 3, same idea. This time, though, I can combine these two r's first. So 1r plus 6r would be 7r minus 4. Because I just combined, I don't have to change anything to the other side. Okay. Then we could subtract an r from both 8r. Okay, that would become 0. 7 minus 8 would give us negative 1r minus 4 equals 3, because that would become 0. Add 4. And we get negative 1r equals 7. So negative 1r equals 7, divide by negative 1, and r equals negative 7. And there's our answer there. Okay, so let's just keep going. Number 4, same idea. Negative 6x, negative x would give us a negative 7x plus 7 equals 19 minus 3x. We could add a 7x. Okay, that would be 0, so I'm left with 7 equals, because it's positive, so it's just positive 7. 19, negative 3 plus 7 is a positive 4x. Then I would subtract 19, because that becomes 0, so I'm left with just 4x on the right side. 7 minus 19 would give us a negative 12. Then I divide by 4, that becomes 1. So I'm left with x equals negative 3. Okay, number 5. So first step I need to do is combine, distribute, I guess I should say. So I'd go 8 times 11 to get 88, minus 8 times 2, 16b, equals negative 4 times 4b, which would be negative 16b, plus, because negative times a negative would give me a positive, 4 times 22 is 88. Now, okay, here's a kind of a weird one, because what happens, look, that's basically the same thing, isn't it? So if I add 16b, that becomes 0, this also becomes 0, and we get 88 equals 88, which I could even subtract an 88, and I'd get 0 equals 0. Okay, so what does that tell us? When you see an answer like this, where we get rid of our variables, but our numbers are equal, it means the answer is all reals. Okay, all reals means every single number. It doesn't matter what value of b I plug in, because I'd have to plug in the same one to both sides. they're going to end up being the same thing. So any number works. Every number is an answer in that one. Okay, number 6. So, same idea. 2 times 6 to get 12x. 6 times negative 4, negative 24 equals 3 times 4 gives me 12x. 3 times 8 gives me a positive 24. Now you may look at this one and say, oh, this is the same as number 5, but watch what happens. I subtract 12x from both sides. That becomes 0. That becomes 0. Does negative 24 equal positive 24? Because that minus stays with the 24. No, that isn't true. Okay. When this happens, there's no solution. It's the opposite of what happened on number 5. Okay. Tells me it doesn't matter what number I put in for x, it's never going to be an answer. So no number, there's no solution. No number will ever work. Okay, number 7. So combine 8x minus x would be 7x plus 50 equals 12x minus 5. Okay, so I could add a 7x. 12 plus 7 would be 19x minus 5 equals 50. Add 5 to both sides. And I'd get 19x equals 55. That would become 0. Divide by 19. And I get x equals some number. Now what's 55 divided by 19? 19 times 3 be 7 to 57. So it would be 2, right? That's 38. So 55 minus 38 would be 17 and 17/19. Whatever decimal that would be, I'm not sure. Decimal form's fine. Fraction form's fine. Any one of those answers works for me. Okay, number 8. So a 5 and a negative 18. I would be left with a negative 3z, because that negative belongs to the 3z. 5 minus 18 would be a negative 13, equals z plus an 8z would be a 9z minus 1. Add 1 to both sides. Negative 3z minus 12 equals 9z. Add a 3z to both sides. Negative 12 equals 12z. Divide by 12. Negative 12 divided by positive 12 equals negative 1 equals z. Okay, now 9 and 10, you're dealing with what we call literal equations. So now there's just a bunch of variables. But we treat it the same, it's just we can't simplify. So we want to get g by itself. So I have v plus k over g. Well, g's at the bottom of a fraction. We need to undo that. So we do the opposite. We times by g. So I have to do it for both sides. Multiplication property of equality. So I get v plus k equals g times t. Then to get g by itself, because that's what we want to do, I divide everything by t. So g equals v plus k divided by t. Is it any easier? No. But if you're using this formula, you would then probably know what to put in for v, k, and t, and that would tell you what g was. Whereas the formula, you would have known what g was, and you're trying to find t. Okay, the last one, same concept. We're solving for L, though. First thing I'd notice is I'm timesing by n over 2. So in other words, I'm dividing by 2. So I do the opposite. I times everything by 2. That 2 and that 2 cancel each other out. Then 2 times s is 2s equals, that just became n times a plus L. Now this n, I can divide everything by n. That becomes 1. And I'm left with a plus L equals 2s divided by n. Can't simplify it further. Then I just need to subtract by an a. So I subtract by an a and I get 2 times s over n minus a equals L. Once again, not any easier, but the point isn't to get easier, it's just to solve for a different equation. And there's some solving equations, and there we go.